Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty profound. The kind of stuff that really makes you think about the bigger questions. And we're going to be doing that with excerpts from a firsthand account of climbing Mount Everest.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just about the physical challenge of climbing.
Right.
It's also about the internal journey that unfolds alongside it.
Yeah, always fascinating to me how these extreme experiences of, pushing the boundaries of human endurance can reveal so much about, our inner landscape.
Absolutely. And one thing that really stood out to me in these excerpts was this feeling of humility at the summit. You'd expect pure elation conquering the highest point on Earth.
Right.
But the author describes this sense of sadness, almost a sense of loss. What do you make of that?
It really challenges our assumptions about achievement, doesn't it? We often imagine these monumental goals as bringing pure joy, a sense of completion. But what if, like in this case, reaching the peak brings a wave of unexpected emotion? I think it suggests that maybe the journey itself, the striving, the overcoming, is as important as the destination.
Yeah, and speaking of journeys, the author talks about this connection to mountains from childhood, almost like a spiritual pull. They describe it as an irresistible challenge, which I thought was such an interesting way to put it. Did any of that resonate with you when you were reading through the source material?
Oh, absolutely. It
Yeah.
speaks to that, that innate human desire to push boundaries, to
Yeah.
test ourselves against something larger than ourselves, whether it's a literal mountain or a metaphorical one. We seem wired to seek out challenges, to strive for something beyond our current reach.
Yeah.
And in the process, we discover something new about ourselves.
And maybe that ties back to that feeling of humility at the summit. If the challenge is what shapes us, what defines us, then what happens when the challenge is over?
Right.
Is there a sense of loss, a yearning for the next mountain to climb?
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It's as if the author is grappling with this realization that reaching the physical summit of Everest isn't the end of the journey,
Right.
but perhaps just the beginning of a new one, the
Right.
summit within, as they call it.
And that concept of the summit within it, it's a bit abstract. What do you think the author's really getting at with that phrase?
Well, I see it as a metaphor for this ongoing process of self-discovery,
Okay.
of pushing our internal boundaries, confronting our limitations, and ultimately reaching a deeper understanding of who we are. It's a climb that doesn't end at the peak of a mountain, but continues throughout our lives.
So if we're thinking about this internal climb, this journey of self-discovery, what kind of gear do we need? What qualities or tools are essential for navigating that kind of terrain?
Well, much like climbing Everest, you need resilience,
Okay.
a willingness to push through discomfort and setbacks. You need a strong sense of self-belief, a conviction that you are capable of reaching the summit, even when doubt creeps in.
And probably a good dose of humility too, right? Recognizing that we don't have all the answers,
Yes.
that we'll make mistakes along the way,
Yeah,
and that sometimes we need to rely on others for support.
absolutely. And speaking of relying on others, the author talks about the experience of climbing as a shared endeavor,
Right.
how the success of the expedition depended on the strength and resilience of the entire team. There's a powerful passage where they describe the shared rope,
Yeah.
literally connecting each climber to the other, symbolizing their interdependence.
That image really struck me too. It's a physical manifestation of that idea that we're not meant to go it alone. That even in the pursuit of personal goals, we need those connections, that support system to help us through the tough parts.
And I think that's where the author's reflection on the summit view becomes even more meaningful.
Okay.
They describe it not as a feeling of conquest,
Right.
but of reverence, of awe in the face of something much larger than themselves.
It's almost as if by reaching that peak, by pushing themselves to the limit, they gained a new perspective, a deeper understanding of their place in the world.
Precisely. And in that moment of realization, perhaps the sense of humility that the author describes isn't sadness or loss, but a newfound appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things. The realization that the summit within isn't just about individual achievement, but about our relationship to something greater than ourselves.
That's a powerful thought, and one I think we'll continue to unpack as we delve deeper into these excerpts.
It's interesting how the author contrasts that sense of awe with the, sheer grit and determination it took to even get there.
Right.
Like there's this passage where they describe the climb as this battle against exhaustion.
Yeah.
This is constant push against physical and mental limits.
It reminds me of that famous quote, it is not the mountain we conquer but ourselves.
Right.
And in the author's case, that internal battle seems just as intense as the external one.
Absolutely. They talk about moments of doubt,
Yeah.
the urge to just give up the sheer physical agony of pushing their body to the brink.
Right.
But at the same time, there's this incredible sense of purpose.
Yeah.
This drive to keep going, even when every fiber of their being is screaming at them to stop.
Yeah, I think that's where the concept of the summit within really starts to take shape.
Mm.
It's not just about reaching a physical destination.
Right.
It's about that internal struggle,
Yeah.
that process of pushing ourselves beyond what we thought we were capable of.
Exactly. And the author highlights this beautifully when they describe this moment of intense clarity while gazing at a distant peak. It wasn't a moment of, triumph or exhilaration,
Right.
but one of profound inner peace,
Okay.
a sense of connection to something much larger than themselves.
Right.
They describe it as like a shift in perspective,
Yeah.
a realization that the true summit wasn't the one that they were standing on,
Right.
but the one that they were carrying within.
That's a powerful image. And one that really resonates with me. It suggests that the real journey, the real transformation, happens not at the peak of the mountain, but in those quiet moments of introspection, those times when we confront our own limitations and find the strength to push past them.
And I think that's where the author's emphasis on the collaborative nature of the climb becomes even more significant.
God.
They repeatedly talk about the importance of the team,
Right.
the shared responsibility, the moments where one climber's strength helped another to keep going.
It's like that old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, go together.
Okay, exactly.
And in this case, it seems like the author's journey to the summit within was very much a shared one.
Yes. And I think that's a crucial point. We often think of self-discovery as this solitary pursuit.
Right.
But the author's experience suggests that it can be profoundly enriched by connection, by the support and encouragement of others who understand the challenges that we're facing.
And those connections, those bonds formed in the face of adversity, they seem to become an integral part of the author's internal landscape. They described the shared rope as a symbol of that connection,
Yeah.
a tangible reminder of the interdependence that helped them reach the summit.
And that symbolism extends beyond the physical climb.
Yeah.
It speaks to the need for connection, for community
Yeah.
in our own journeys of self-discovery. Whether it's a mentor, a friend, or a group of like-minded individuals, having that support system can make all the difference when we're facing our own internal mountains.
It's almost as if by sharing the burden, by offering and receiving support, we create this collective strength that allows us to reach heights we couldn't achieve alone.
Precisely. And that collective strength, that sense of shared purpose, can fuel our motivation, sustain us through the difficult stretches, and ultimately help us to reach that summit within.
So if we're thinking about this internal climb as a shared journey, what does that look like in practice? How can we cultivate those connections, those relationships that will support us along the way?
Well, I think it starts with being open to vulnerability, to sharing our struggles and seeking support when we need it. It's about recognizing that we don't have to have all the answers, that it's okay to ask for help, to lean on others when the climb gets tough.
And it's also about being that source of support for others, right? Recognizing that everyone is facing their own internal challenges.
Yes.
And offering a listening ear, a word of encouragement, or simply a reminder that they're not alone.
Absolutely. It's about fostering a sense of community, of shared purpose, where we can celebrate each other's victories, offer comfort in times of struggle, and inspire each other to keep climbing, to keep striving for those summits within.
And as we continue to explore this idea of the summit within, I'm curious to dig deeper into the author's reflections on what happens after you reach the peak. And there's a sense of anticlimax, almost a sense of loss, which is fascinating to me.
Yes, and I think that's where the author's insights become even more profound. They challenge our assumptions about achievement, about
Yeah.
what it means to reach our goals and what happens next.
Because if the journey is just as important as the destination, then what happens when the journey is over?
Right.
Where do we go from there?
That's a great question, and one that I think we'll explore in more depth as we continue our deep dive. But for now, let's shift our focus to a particularly intriguing passage where the author describes an encounter with a group of Sherpas who were carrying offerings to leave at the summit.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that passage. It really stood out to me. It wasn't about planting a flag or claiming ownership, but about leaving something behind as a gesture of reverence, of gratitude.
Exactly. And I think that speaks volumes about the author's evolving understanding of the mountain and of their own place within it.
It's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it? From conquest to humility, from ownership to gratitude.
Absolutely. And it highlights a crucial aspect of the summit within. It's not about reaching a final destination, but but about this continuous process of growth, of transformation, of finding our place in the larger scheme of things.
And that process, that journey, it doesn't end at the summit, does it?
No, it continues long after we've descended the mountain, carrying with us the lessons learned, the experiences gained, and the profound sense of connection that we've cultivated along the way.
It's almost as if by reaching that peak, by pushing ourselves to the limit, we open ourselves up to a whole new world of possibilities, a deeper understanding of who we are and what we're capable of.
And that's the beauty of the summit within, isn't it? It's not a static point, but a constantly evolving horizon, always beckoning us to climb higher, to explore further, and to discover the boundless potential that lies within ourselves.
And as we delve deeper into these excerpts, I'm excited to see where that exploration takes us. You know, it's interesting how this idea of leaving offerings instead of claiming ownership ties back into the author's earlier reflections on humility.
Right.
It's like they're recognizing the mountain's power, its sacredness almost.
Yeah, I think it reflects a shift from, an ego-driven pursuit of conquest to a more humble recognition of our place in the grand scheme of things. The mountain becomes a symbol of something larger than ourselves, something worthy of respect and reverence.
And that shift in perspective, it seems to be a key part of the author's journey towards the summit within. It's not just about physical achievement, but about a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to the world around us.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we're part of something larger than ourselves, and that true fulfillment comes not from conquering the mountain,
Right.
but from connecting with it, honoring it, and ultimately learning from it.
And I think that's where the author's final message really resonates.
Okay.
They talk about this idea that the true summit lies within each of us,
Right.
suggesting that the real journey, the real challenge is this one that we undertake within ourselves.
Yes. And it's a journey that's accessible to everyone, regardless of, physical ability or external circumstances. We all have our own internal mountains to climb, our own limitations to overcome, and our own unique paths to navigate.
And just like climbing Everest, this internal journey requires courage, perseverance, and a willingness to push beyond our comfort zones.
It's about confronting our fears, our doubts, and our perceived limitations, and finding the strength to keep going even when the climb gets tough.
And it's also about recognizing that we don't have to climb alone.
Yeah.
Just as the author relied on their team for support and encouragement,
Yeah.
we can also turn to others for guidance, inspiration, and a helping hand when we need it.
Absolutely. Whether it's a mentor, a friend, a therapist, or a group of like-minded individuals, having a support system can make all the difference when we're facing our own internal challenges.
It's like having a team of Sherpas to guide us through the treacherous terrain, offering encouragement when we stumble and celebrating our victories along the way.
And that sense of shared journey, of collective purpose, can be incredibly empowering. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles, that others have faced similar challenges and emerged stronger on the other side.
And it also highlights the importance of giving back, of being that source of support for others who are on their own journeys toward the summit within.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, and that by helping others to reach their potential, we also contribute to our own growth and fulfillment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that you'll be carrying with you from this conversation?
Well, for me, it's that reminder that the most challenging and rewarding climbs are often the ones we undertake within ourselves. It's about cultivating those qualities of resilience, perseverance, and self-belief that allow us to push beyond our perceived limitations and reach new heights of personal growth.
And for me, it's the importance of connection.
Yeah.
Of recognizing that we're not meant to go it alone on this journey, whether it's seeking support from others or offering it in return.
Yeah.
Those bonds of shared experience can make all the difference when we're facing our own internal mountains.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's about embracing the journey, the challenges and the triumphs, knowing that every step we take, whether upward or even downward, brings us closer to that summit within.
So to our listener, what's your Everest? What internal peak are you currently striving to conquer? And who are your Sherpas? Those trusted companions who support and inspire you along the way. Remember, the journey is yours to create, and the view from the summit is breathtaking.